Caen is a historic university town near the coast of Normandy where memories of the Second World War remain deeply entrenched. It was occupied by the Germans, then heavily bombed by the Allies. The city's path to liberation was paved with unimaginable sacrifices, filling its war memories with pain. Today, Caen is home to Normandy's largest war museum, Mémorial de Caen, and a hub for tourists visiting the famous D-Day landing sites.
The world is changing very fast, and I think we don't realize enough what freedom means and what others have done for us to have actually freedom.
It was very sad, actually. I felt quite tearful this morning, actually, when we went into one of the cemeteries and saw the graves of all the really young soldiers.
But for the French, there are mixed emotions over the price civilians paid following the D-Day landings. Caen had to be completely rebuilt after the war. 3/4 of the city was destroyed following weeks of Allied bombing raids aimed at German occupying forces. This historic abbey in the centre of Caen, which now houses the City Hall, is one of the few major buildings that remained intact after World War II. It was here that thousands of civilians took shelter from the devastating bombing raids. Families slept here for weeks on end. A large white sheet with a red cross was placed on the roof, and the French resistance warned Allies not to bomb it. Marie-Nicole Deschamps was 9 years old at the time and lost several relatives in the bombing raids on the city.
We saw that Caen was burning. We could see the fires because of the bombing. We saw the fire and then the noise of bombs.
She spent more than a month sheltering, like many others, not in the abbey, but in caves beneath nearby limestone quarries.
We slept on the straw. We had no water, so we drank the water that fell from the roof. We had no toys, we had nothing. I lived with my clothes on for a month without ever changing.
At dawn on June the 6th, 1944, around 150,000 American, British and Canadian troops stormed the beaches of Normandy. One of the key objectives for the military command following the D-Day landings was to capture German-occupied Caen. Christophe Priem is the Memorial Museum's historian. Allied command, why was it so important to take Caen?
The city of Caen was a strategic city for the Allies because of its position, controlling bridges and major roads. Once it was taken, the Allied troops could break out of Normandy. It was the gateway to the liberation of French territory and then Germany.
Sword Beach was one of the British landing sites back in 1944. Today it's a regular stopping-off point on D-Day tours. The original orders were for the British and Canadian troops to push on and try and take Caen the same day, but it didn't work out to plan. What followed was weeks of intense fighting against stiff German resistance, but the Allies had air superiority, carpet bombing Caen and the surrounding towns and villages, at times hitting civilians and their own troops as well as the German positions. By the time the Allied troops entered Caen, the city was reduced to rubble. More than 2,000 residents had been killed in Allied efforts to liberate them, with thousands more left destitute. Historian Emmanuel Thierbault is founder of a museum in nearby Falaise, dedicated to the civilian casualties of war.
When the fighters arrived, there was obviously some bitterness, but despite everything, they were the ones who set us free, and despite the destruction, the welcome was quite cordial.
For Marie-Nicole Deschamps, these are much happier memories.
They waved at us and would throw us chocolates and cigarettes. They were nice. We were happy to see them.
Between June and August 1944, an estimated 50,000 Allied troops were killed in the battle for Normandy, along with 30,000 Germans, with many more injured or missing. This is the Saint-Monvieux War Cemetery near Caen. Its rows upon rows of immaculately maintained graves are a stark reminder of the human cost of war. Some of those buried here on both sides were still in their teens. There are few memorials, though, for the 20,000 French civilians who died, some of whom were buried together. There are no names on the graves.
This is a mass grave with bodies that have not necessarily been identified. It's obvious that we've learnt absolutely no lessons. Look at all the conflicts since the war. Unfortunately, civilian populations are increasingly at the forefront of all these battles.
It took almost 20 years to rebuild the city after the war. The roof and spire of St. Peter's Church collapsed, along with buildings in the surrounding streets. Today, the church has been restored, the surrounding buildings replaced. This is a photo of Rue Saint-Pierre, which today is a popular shopping destination. Several of the narrow, medieval, cobbled streets were replaced with wide, tree-lined boulevards, complete with a modern tram system. At the entrance to the new university is a statue of a phoenix, the bird which rose from the ashes. It's become a symbol of the city's renewal. Michael Voss, CGTN, Caen, France.